Come on, man. Come on, man.
Yeah. Islam. I'm trying to be your friend, man. That's right. I'm trying to be your friend, bro. Help me out. Meet me halfway. Come on. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. I said you ain't never met a more like me, and you ain't never ever gonna meet one again. Now let me be your friend. Peace and love. Let me be your friend. Peace and love. I said you ain't never met a more like me, and you ain't never ever gonna meet one again. I wanna be your friend. Peace and love. Now let me be your friend. Peace and love. Hey yo, I used to be a thug until I met the prophet. Now I'm all about love, truth.
Check 1 2, check 1 2. Man, come on, man. Y'all gotta get them likes up, get them shares up.
Asiatics make me wanna forget the lessons. I'll be all up in my passion from all the Moorish passion. All things considered, I start laughing. A grown man with a ponytail, another calling us Neanderthal, and he all pale. I mean, for real, this is what it come to, my brother. We got nothing better to do than talk down to each other. Yeah, we can be scholarly, or we can get gutter. We are the children of one father, and the breast of one mother has nursed us all. And first of all, we beefing while the fiend trying to murk us all. You need to chill, my brother. Tell the elder the same, cause on the real, my man, I'm really about them.
What it do, family? Hey, family, what it do? Come on, man. Y'all gotta share this one. Big dude. Y'all got to share this one. Am I too loud already? Am I too loud already? See, our prophet was an actor. You know what that is? Hey, family, tonight is going to be one to remember. Hey, I'm about to go tap on y'all tonight. Bring out the war drums on y'all tonight. Let me find the war drum. I'm looking for the war drum. Hey, family, everybody need to share this. Y'all know when we coming at somebody, we got millions of people want to see it. But when we dropping knowledge and practical information, you know how we do. But this is going to be a surprise. Because we ain't going, hey, listen, you know how I do. I'm not holding nothing back on this one. They say Pan-Africanism is dead. I'm like, I didn't get the memo. I just didn't get the memo. So family, everybody share this real quick so we can get started. I'm gonna share some more myself. That's what I'm gonna do. Give me a second. We fam, did you share that? Everybody need to share this. You know YouTube can change the game up. They done changed the game up. They not giving people alerts. They not sending people emails. They not sending people nothing no more. They done changed the game up. It's on us now. This ain't YouTube 6 months ago. I'ma share it. That's what I'ma do. That's right. Let me make sure my sound right. Hey, I'm gonna share it a little bit. Let me share this.
I wanna be your friend, peace and love. So let me be your friend, peace and love. Oh yeah, you ain't never met a more like this, and you ain't never ever gonna meet one again. So let me be your friend, peace and love. So let me be your friend, peace and love. I wanna be your friend, yeah. Let me be your friend. All these men, we ain't trying to be enemies. I wanna be your. Yo, let me be your, I wanna be your friend. Hey, yeah.
C.O. McGee, I'm bringing out the war drum tonight. the war drops tonight. Man, listen, man. Hey, listen to me. I want you to hear me out, right? I want you to hear me out. Listen, y'all know how I do. Y'all know how I do. Y'all know how I do. If y'all been watching Morse World TV, if y'all some day ones, y'all know how I do. One thing about me, man, I want it to be as real and as organic as it can be. And you know that I do series on weirdos that's taking advantage of the community. And I've always said that I want to be able to open the door that when we take down the weirdos, the weirdos is out the way, and now the real ones can come through. If we don't, listen, family, this has always been the mission. The mission was to put the weirdos on Front Street, because social media right now is the place where everybody gets their information. It's very unfortunate, but it is what it is. Social media is where everybody gets their information. And if you go to the library, the seats are empty. If you go to the Library of Congress, nobody's there but some old Europeans. You know what I mean? And if you look on the internet, if you go into a restaurant, wherever you go, you're going to see us like it, rock to sleep. And so, because the internet or technology or social media has become a bridge to our people, then I thought it was, and I continue to think it is very important to get those weirdos out the way, put them on Front Street, let people know who they are so the real can come through. We cannot build anything with the weirdos in the way. They're in the way. They got to get out the way. And so now listen, family, my guest has nothing. These are the opinions of Tahaka Bay. My guest can speak for himself. But let me tell you something. Recently, I found out that people like Sinetta and all of that, they having problems with YouTube. And I may have some problems in the future too, because I'm raw. But they got problems that I haven't seen. They look like they might have clipped them. You know what I mean? That I clipped this channel. But man, when you are letting perverts in and you are fleecing the people for years and years and years, I mean, hey, what can you expect? What can you expect? But now, I don't wish that on nobody, because I mean, some people, they just lost, just like most of us used to be. Some of us, I know some of us was born perfect. I get it. But most of us been lost before, so I get it. So I don't want the man lose his bread. You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, he got to get out the way so the real can come through. That's just the bottom line. He got to get out the way so the real can come through. Not only that, when you look on the internet now, like it's real quiet right now. It's real quiet. This is prime time for the real ones to come up. I'm trying to tell you. And here in Baltimore, we have some hard hitters. We have some hard hitters in Baltimore. We got Dr. Assar. We got my brother that he was on here a few weeks ago, Jabari, and we got many, many more. Tonight, we got one more amongst many. And we gonna get busy, family. So I need everybody to share this. I'm excited about this because I know we ain't gonna cut no corners on this one. We ain't gonna cut no corners. And I don't do cutting corners good. So let's get this intro in and let's get it rocking. I am the more. You gonna remember. You already know. Come on, man. Everybody thumbs up. I be that more you gonna remember. You already know. Be that more you gonna remember. Get my water ready. Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. That's right. I be that more you gon' remember. Tahaka Bay front line till the law call my number. If you a friend of mine, I was told to watch my enemies, now hold my line. Those are speaking against the prophet, they speak against me. Who was the first? But Morocco. Mississippi and Quebec. Told you wasn't black. Proved it was straight fact. You tripping off trucks, you need to be tripping off that. Now here we go again, acting like you a slave. The same people talk European how to bathe. And look at that women buying European hair. No love for self, but do the men really care? Hell no, cause they got a love for Europe. Whole generation chasing pills, weed and syrup. Yeah, they love no yachty.
when it's under the cover. Now cipher, I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. That's right. I be that more you gon' remember. To Harker Bay front line till the law call my number. I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. That's right. I be that more you gon' remember. To Harker Bay front line till the law call my number. All you super scholars holler. This era for the workers. You ain't building on the ground, then you worse than a twerker. You look and sound good, but that's only on the surface. Probably working for the people. Now tell me what's your purpose. Ain't worried about your homie, but know that I know every mo that rock a fast. He ain't my bro. Yeah, you know I ain't slow. I seen it all before. How they try to kill the prophet, it was all for dough. And some got it right now. Don't say that I'm not down. I'm coming for my vast mistake. I want my town, my sheriff, my stores, my school, my nation. Sick and tired of the procrastination and debate. Y'all keep hating when love is the savior. You don't love yourself, so you can't love your neighbor. That's why you killing, fighting, marry out of your race. If you ain't for Moore's world, then get out of my face. Cause Chinese love China, Italians love Italy. If you used to love the Moore's world, come on and build it with me. Let's go. I be that more you gon' remember. I'ma be that more you gon' remember. That's right. I be that more you gon' remember.
To Harker Bay front line till the law call my number. Hey, we about to heat up now. Hey, I'm telling you, we about to heat up now. We got bro in the building. Hey, family, make sure you share this. I'm telling you the games that they playing right now. It's imperative that you share this. Let me explain to you one more time. If you haven't noticed, let me let the crowd. The Harker Bay front line till the law call my number. So listen, family, let me explain to you one more time. Because I am a student of social media, I'm a student of the game. Because my intention has always been to get a message to the people that they might not normally get. And then when you come to social media, you got so many murky conversations going on that the real conversation hardly ever seep through. Now what's going on is YouTube is playing games, whereas though people are not getting alerts, people are not being put in certain conversation algorithms. At one time, it was natural for a conversation like this to be put in conversation algorithms, and whereas though you're watching a video and then another one to come up and it's like, wow, they talk about Pan-Africanism, and then people would tap on it. Well, things done changed now. They're trying to push YouTube to the more polished, the Shannon Sharp type shows and all of these big polished shows, and they're going to weed out a lot of this from going into the algorithms because they want to get the advertising dollars from the stars. So if you're a star, all the stars are going to YouTube now to be independent because they don't have to get a check from somebody else and then split it with somebody. They can go straight to YouTube, be independent, and split it with YouTube. You know what I mean? As opposed to a big company, a manager, and all of that. So here we go. So us as the small guys and the real ones, we need to make sure that we share this out. But with that being said, I got my brother Baba MWTv here from Baltimore. Now, Baba, I'm going to tell you off the top now, this is a tough platform here. You're going to see some comments in here. And I know without a doubt or contradiction that you're ready for whatever, but people always seem to have something odd to say. And you'd be like, where did that come from? Out the way. No disrespect, but just weird questions sometimes. And so with that being said, brother, can you come on in and introduce yourself? Tell the people who you are while I adjust my mic real quick. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Peace, peace and blessings, brother. To Harker Bay, it's a pleasure and it's an honor to be here. Well, for those who know me, and some of you may not know who I am Baba MWTv, the founder of PLM, which is the Pan-African Liberation Movement, situated here in Baltimore City. Our primary and ultimate objective as an organization is to facilitate and bring about African sovereignty for the African people of the world, which we are, in fact, African people. In addition to that, you know, I like to think that I am what I would define myself as being a student of our story, a student of history. I pay close attention to history, our story, to understand who we are historically, where we've been historically, and on the basis of that understanding, to assess where we are today, to project where we need to go in the future. That's who I am. And yes, Baba Taka Habe, I don't have no script. I like to just come from my gut. I like to come very sincere, and then the ancestors, they're jumping my back, and it's all over after that.
Well, let me ask you this, brother. When we look at the conversation, let's deal with it. Like, I'm a social media guy for all intents and purposes to get this message out. There's a movement going on in the social media circles that, number one, now we're going to touch these first. There's a movement going on in social media circles that we are not Africans. Now, as a Moorish American, right, I used to have to battle people to say Moors ain't African. I was like, how did they come up with that? I don't know, where did they get that from? But I would battle with these. That's what I mean by crazy comments. I would have to battle with that when I first came to social media and teaching. But now it's a new thing that says that no, we ain't Africans, we Indians, Native American Indians, and we ain't never, there is no slave ships, there is no slave trade, there is no none of that. Brother, this is a very popular conversation going on the internet. What have you say to that? I think it's asinine at best, but what do you have to say to that?
Well, since you put it to the floor, I actually agree with you. I think it's totally, it's ridiculous. However, I understand why it's being pushed. Because when you take a people and you strip those people of some of the most essential things that make them who they are, and people begin to try to, like, we've been conditioned to lash onto things. And we've been conditioned to totally dislike who we are. And that dislike, it runs so deep that we don't even recognize that the thoughts that we are postulating have been implanted within us. We believe it's our thoughts. You know, so those people that's propagating that, they'll tell you like, man, these are my thoughts. This is my research. They have no clue that they are being programmed to speak against themselves and to work against themselves. There is no continent on the planet that is as resourceful as Africa. I don't care what they say about, well, we took these plants from America and took them to Africa, all that old, you know, these theories they're making up to try to just, there is no land mass that is as resourceful for us African. And it makes us total idiots and fools to relinquish that concept for anything else. To give that up and make us fools. Marcus Garvey was asked a question one time. I'm gonna paraphrase the question that he was asked. They asked him what was he? You know what I'm saying? What was his, to that degree, like, well, they wanted to know what was his position. And he said that he was African and he would never give up a country for an hour in terms of Jamaica. He had enough sense to know, like, it's Africa. Now, people are gonna always push against it because we've been conditioned to push against it. So I'm addressing it because you put it to the floor. But oftentimes, I don't even address it because of the misuse of our energy. Like,
absolutely,
too much going on in this world, and there are too many issues, real issues that we need to be dealing with as a people, rather than trying to convince people, you know what I'm saying, who have learned to hate themselves, that you are what you say you hate. I don't have time for that. I'm 50
exactly.
So I'll be 53. I'll be 53 in what, 14 days? I don't got time to try to convince nobody.
Hey, brother, that's why people say me and you are something alike, because I be 51 in a little few days after you. But with that being said, the reason why I bring that to the table is because I constantly try to battle misinformation on social media, and I'm glad that you underscore some of my sentiments about that conversation. So I appreciate that. The second thing I want to bring to the table is another conversation before we move forward, that the idea that Pan-Africanism is dead. And as you can see on the flyer, I said it's Pan-Africanism is alive because I don't like to use the opposite bottom low vibration word to something that I know is opposite of that vibration. So I say it's Pan-Africanism is alive. But the question is, they put to the table is that where is it? What they doing? And I always say that it's not on the internet. What are you looking for? Where's you? And do you know people in your community? Because I know that it's alive and well here in Baltimore, and I'm like, where do you live at? And so, from you, brother, what do you say to the state of Pan-Africanism in 2024?
Well, for those that's asking the question, I'm a living example of Pan-Africanism. So by virtue of my existence, Pan-Africanism is alive and well. Now, if a person want to know what are some of the things that we do, first and foremost, we educate. We educate Black children, Black men, and Black women. You know, we have the Child Care Center. You know, we have the weekend school. We have the Tuesday group, the manhood group going on. We also have, you know, men that work with our boys, the ASAFO, you know, the development program. So Pan-Africanism is this right here. For those who don't know, let me make it real simple, right? I'm gonna do it two ways. I'm gonna do it in a very simplistic way, and then I'm gonna give them a more complex understanding. Simplistically, the word Pan-Africanism, P-A-N, pan, literally means all. Simple as that, it means all. And then you have African. African is the indigenous and authentic descendants and people of Africa, not the invaders nor the invaders' children, the settlers who are there. And then ism is either doctrine or ideology. So when you put that together in a very simplistic way, you got all African ideology. Now, so Pan-Africanism postulates the unification of African people throughout the world. We recognize one body of African people, and we are seeking the sovereignty of that body of African people. And we also recognize that no matter where we are at in the world, that we are contending with the same enemy, the same conditions, the same situations. Right? Nothing is different, whether I'm in Jamaica, whether I'm in Australia, whether I'm in the UK. Our situation is the same. Case in point, during the 1840s, the late 1840s, Martin Delaney, he did a tour through the United States of America. And one of the things he recognized in this tour is that African people were suffering the same way. Then, you know, Marcus Garvey, you know, he did a tour, you know, in the early teens through South America and places like that. And everywhere he went, he recognized what? That African people were in the same condition. When he got to the UK, he realized that African people were in the same condition. Black people, we were suffering the same. David Walker, when he put out his appeal in 1829, then these are Pan-Africans that I'm talking about. David Walker is a total Pan-Africanist. When he put his appeal out in 1829, he spoke to the African people in the world, and he spoke about the wretched conditions of African people throughout the world. And he said this. He said that that African people in the United States of America would only come out their conditions to the degree that African people come out the conditions throughout the world. So how is it alive today? It guides our thinking, it guides our speech, and it guides our action. Right? When you look, you can see the effectiveness of Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is oftentimes in the popular society, it's kind of relegated to the side because it's non-compromising. So you can't be a Pan-Africanist and compromise with wickedness. That's why you can't be a true, let me back up. You can't be a true Pan-Africanist and be in league with wickedness. You can't be a true Pan-Africanist and be bribed. You can't be a true Pan-Africanist and don't speak for the African world. You have someone that's going to take the African energy into every space that he or she goes. That type of person will be relegated by the powers that be. So yeah, you're not going to see that individual or hear about him if you're looking through the enemy's media looking for him. You're not going to find him there You got to look through other media outlets to find him or her that's a true Pan-Africanist.
And I wanted to touch that. Sorry to cut your wisdom for a second, almost, but I wanted to touch that right there because this social media thing. You have people on social media that when I talk about, say, if I speak about Trump or Biden, and I say if I do a show about Trump, and I say I see these people calling themselves Pan-Africanists, but they're moving on the platform that Trump put down. I said, man, that's not no Pan-Africanist. What y'all talking about? And then they say, well, why are you against Trump? You like Biden? I'll be like, no, that ain't the case. They are two wings of the same bird. But I'm just speaking on this at that time. How is it that in this day and time, people are, and this is one of the reasons I brought you here too, amongst many things, is because the public got a confused mind of what Pan-Africanism is. And you just said it. What is it where we're able to define once again, and you're going to reiterate, I'm sure, define once again Pan-Africanism as it relates to upholding and supporting the powers that is ultimately the manifestation of our oppression. It may be in a different variation, but it's still the same thing. How do one claim to be that, or how do we identify? I don't even know how to word it because it's so crazy that people will call themselves Pan-Africanists and then use a Trump platform. I don't get it.
Great question. So there's a lot of things that's happening. One of the things that's happening with African people, there's a severe crisis in consciousness. Like there's a severe crisis in the consciousness of African people, primarily here in the United States of America. So right now I'm speaking about us in the United States of America. There's a crisis in consciousness. And there's a crisis in consciousness because we're not studying and we're not reflecting and we're not correcting our behaviors, right? And when you're not correcting your behavior, you're not growing, you're not getting better, you're not expanding. So individuals they can attach themselves to a demon and say I'm Pan-Africanist, right? Because we're in a time period where people don't look at character anymore. They look at popularity, right? So the wretchedest individuals amongst us who know how to manipulate the media and social media becomes the most popular, right? And we're not concerned with the wretchedness of his behavior. Nature Boy, right? How can he become popular? Saying the things that he has said. My son hold my penis. You know,
goodness gracious.
If your child come over my house, I'm not covering myself up to make your child feel comfortable. How could that type of idiocy become someone that you listen to? And all of those weirdos, like you call them, that's what they are. They are 1,000% weirdos, right? But we're in a time period where if you are popular, people are going to listen to you. So yes, these weirdos that are popular on social media will attach themselves to the enemy and then say I'm a Pan-Africanist. And people allow that. Why? Because we're not checking people no more, right? Because character is not what we're focusing on no more. Cowards are advancing to the forefront. Cowards.
Come on now.
People are allowing it. You know why? Because don't nobody really want to change them damn selves. That's why. Everybody want to be in the gutter, in the dirt. So they don't want to listen to the one that's saying, clean yourself up. Do the right thing. Be a man. Be a woman. They don't want to listen to him. I want to listen to the one that's okay with me being in the mud, that's being dirty, that's okay with me cheating on my wife, that's okay with me cheating on my husband, that's lying, stealing, and conniving. That's what we want to be around. We don't want to be around the one that's going to hold you up, that's going to make you good. That's not what we want. So that's why these clowns can attach themselves to the demon, to the enemy, and say Pan-African. I'm telling you tonight.
That's what I love.
If the character is not right, then they're not what they say they are. Because you're not what you are because you profess it. You are what you are because you demonstrate it.
Now we got a brother in the chat. He said this, and then we'll move on with the show. He says that, and I want to respond to it, and then I'll let you respond to it. He says, because this is very interactive. He says whether Pan-Africanism is online or offline, Pan-African is pretty much dead and gone. Take it from one who is a former Pan-Africanist of 30 years. Let me say this first. many people would say that about the Moorish Science Temple of America. And I am different from what people consider to be the typical Moorish American, because I am of the thought that principally the Moorish Science Temple of America, when taught properly, is a Pan-Africanist movement. But we may use the term the uniting of Asia, and Pan-African is all people of African descent, and we say we are descendants from the inhabitants of Africa. And so, to my point of what he just said is that once you understand a certain truth, how can it die unless you return to death? I don't understand that when you say that Jack in the chat say it's dead and coming from someone in the past. Brother, you just went back to sleep. Because if something has awakened you and it was real, truth do not die. And so what do you say to that if one say, well, I used to be? To me, I say this all the time when somebody say, I used to be this and I used to be that. Man, you may evolve from one thing into another, but every building block is something to your greater good. And so to say that I used to be a Pan-Africanist and it's gone, that's explaining to me that this person has went back to sleep. What do you say to that?
Yes. With all due respect to that particular comment, like we said earlier, if there's, granted, people can practice something for 50 years. It doesn't mean that it was thoroughly understood.
That's right.
I have a book that's coming out this year. It'll be my 7th book, but this particular book this year, the title of the book is Scientific Pan-Africanism. And the reason why I say scientific is because I want to make a distinction between what's authentic and what's inauthentic in terms of Pan-Africanism, right? Simple as that, But when we truly understand what Pan-Africanism is in terms of the thought process, right? We will understand what it's all about. So he said that Pan-Africans haven't produced anything of substance, right? Now, even though Marcus Garvey never called himself a Pan-Africanist, Marcus Garvey stood on the principles of Pan-Africanism.
That's
Marcus
right.
Garvey was one of the, one of the highest proponents of Pan-African thought, Marcus Garvey, and which transcended straight to Malcolm X. Malcolm X was a principal Pan-Africanist. Kwame Nkrumah was a Pan-Africanist. Patrice Lumumba was a Pan-Africanist. We can go on and on and on, running down the different names of the people who were Pan-Africanists and what they was able to do and things of that nature. Now he's speaking about in the United States of America. You know what I'm saying? You have Baba and Walamu Baruti, a Pan-Africanist, right? Have produced, an educational institution and 30 qualified, quality, informative books. You know what I'm saying? That's just one individual, right? There are tons of brothers and sisters who are living examples of Pan-Africanism, who are producing and who have produced. Dr. Obotashaka, right, is a Pan-Africanist, and he had produced, right? So oftentimes, what we tend to do, and it happens kind of inadvertently, we pick up the rhetoric that becomes the dominant rhetoric. And so I'm of the mindset, just because it's the dominant rhetoric doesn't mean that it's an accurate assessment. So yes, people are going to say Pan-Africanism is dead, it haven't done anything, but Pan-Africanism had produced some of the greatest Black minds that we can start running down. Some of the greatest Black minds that have stood within the United States of America could be linked straight back to Pan-Africanism. So we can't say it hasn't produced anything of substance. Malcolm X was substance. I am substance. You know what I'm saying? And I'm straight Pan-Africanist. You know what I'm saying? So we're not going to say it hasn't produced anything of substance. It is producing of substance. And we're still moving. And we're getting things done. We just got to stay consistent and stay the course. And thoroughly understand what it means to be a Pan-Africanist. You know what I'm saying? To understand it, like I said a few minutes ago, it's about the character. It's the character that matters. It's the character. We got to get back to that. And we start thinking about Pan-African character. We talk about men and women that's standing upright, that's standing on African solid principles. Those solid principles are what it means to be an African man or an African woman in the United States of America and throughout the world. So to that statement, yes, some people do run their course. Me personally, I don't see how you can run the course. I will never run my course You see what I'm saying?
That's right.
The ideology that have got me to where I'm at today is the ideology that I would have when I transcend this physical realm. I won't be 65 and telling another younger generation, like, yo, young man, you know, I was a Pan-African for 30 years, and I'm telling you, it's dead. I won't be that person. You know what I'm saying? I won't be that person 40 years from the day telling somebody that ideology is dead when I know the total history of it. You know what I'm saying? I can go all the way back to Paul Cuffey and start talking about it. You know what I'm saying? We have produced. It have produced. It have transformed the world. You know what I'm saying? It have been, you know, think about, you know, you got Baba Chokwe Lumumba out of Jackson, Mississippi. You know what I'm saying? Through a Pan-Africanist that came into the mayorship. You know what I'm saying? Organizing. We got some serious-minded Black men and Black women that stand in the heart of Pan-Africanism. And we're not going to say it haven't produced. That's not all the way correct in terms of its assessment and analysis of the history of Pan-Africanism.
I think what happens is because we are in this social media age and we don't see the names that you named on social media in these screens, in our phones, trying to get attention and doing janky, foolish stuff to get attention, that people that stay in their phone looking for attention, they feel as though that is dead. And it blows me away because I remember a few years ago, probably about 5 years ago, it was brothers going around the city painting the red, black, and green flag on abandoned buildings. And they were all throughout the city. I don't know if you ever seen it, but they were all throughout the city, especially on West Side. West Side Baltimore, every abandoned building that was boarded up had a red, black, and green flag on it. And that shows me that Pan-Africanism is alive and well. Every year in the park, something is going on, and you could talk about that a little later. But with that being said, brother, if you could break down a practical application of Pan-Africanism for us to really absorb for 2024, what does it look like? And some of these questions are going to be reiterations because I like to use that hammer and bang it on in. But what does it look like for a hip-hop generation today? What do it look like for, excuse my expression, family, I got to say it, they say the thought generation or the feel sorry for me generation, and you know that all of these shame, they call them whole shaming, and they got all of these terminologies to feel victimized. So you got the hip hop generation, the victimized generation, and the woe is me generation. What does it look like if you would explain it to one that's caught up in that cycle of destruction?
So what I've learned in 30 years, actually, of doing this work is that each individual is at a different place in terms of his or her consciousness. So what I like to do is I like to figure out where a person is at by having a conversation with them. But let's just say for the sake of this conversation right here, I can't get a person to understand Pan-Africanism in one conversation, but I can get them to understand some of the tenets of Pan-Africanism. And one of the most basic tenets is that we are a unified body of people. And so I would help them to understand that. I would help them understand how we are unified. I would help them to see that the issues and the struggles that we are dealing with as individuals, we are dealing with as an entire people. I would help them to understand that, you know, we have an origin from where we originated at, and there's a place where we are going. And I would help them to see the power of us. I would show them periods of time in our development as a people where we were actually demonstrating a degree of unity, how we made advances. Those time periods from the 1955 to 1975, we made some advances because we was kinder understanding, you know, the basis of what it means to be together in some type of unity. So we made some advances, you know, during from 1912 to 1929. We made some advances, you know what I'm saying? From 1800 to 1865, we made some advances. You know, I'm talking just as Black people. You know, when you talk about the abolitionists and things of that nature, even though we know Europeans got in there and start using that term, but the whole abolitionist push, it came from Black people. You know what I'm saying? That was Black people banding together to push for that. You know, so we talk about, you know, Richard Allen, Paul Cuffey, Prince Saunders. These were the brothers that was pushing for this in the early 1800s. And then you get to 1829 through the 1830s when you get to a Martin Delaney and the Garnetts and the Westworms and all these brothers and Maria Stewart, right? When we identified as a body, we made advances. And so I would show them that. I would show them whenever we identified ourselves as some type of unified body, we made advances. So I would always start my introduction to Pan-Africanism from the position of helping the people see that we are, in fact, a worldwide people. And our issues and struggles and concerns are worldwide, and they're the same.
How do you start Pan-Africanism principles locally as you are doing in Baltimore, as opposed to many people, when they hear Pan-Africanism, the first thing that they do is they go across the Atlantic Ocean and say, Africans this and African that, and you here and you that. And you know, I just don't think, and I'm giving these questions because I hear these conversations. So where do we start our ideals as it relates to our journey towards liberation by the way of the Pan-African ideal?
So that's the catch, right? So anything that we are doing, like for me, the things that I do organizationally, those things are basic stepping stones to a larger objective. So those type of things. So when you're thinking about building or moving towards some type of African sovereignty, you have to envision a nation. So you got to think about a nation, and then you got to think about all the things that will go into building a nation and making a nation, functional and operational. So one of the key things to that will be education. So a lot of what we do organizationally focus around education in some capacity, and that education speaks to cultural competency. The reason why we are so anti-us is because we don't understand the importance of culture. We don't understand that culture is that piece of a human society that makes your psychology, your psyche intact. When culture is removed from your psyche, it's shattered. And that's why we're so anti. That's why we're so against, because we don't have the culture. And if we had the culture, we would see how we are one and the same. But we have been stripped of that. We don't have the culture. And many of us are unwilling to learn it. So that's why we say things like that. Well, those Africans don't want it. But I've been to Africa 3 times. I've been on the continent 3 times. 3 times. And yes, there are Africans on the continent who may not say they black, but there's a ton of them on the continent that does say they're black. And there are Africans on the continent that may say, well, I got an issue with the ones that's in the United States of America. But there are a ton of Africans who don't have an issue. The same way we have been raped, robbed, murdered, beat down, and battered in the USA, our brothers and sisters have been raped, robbed, murdered, battered, and beat down on the continent. But because most of you individuals that had this thought process, because you don't study and you're unwilling to study to learn, you are going to propagate the message of the enemy. You are nothing but agents of the enemy. You're agents of the enemy, and you keep propagating what the enemy is saying. But you're not doing no real research. You're not doing no real research to validate those things that you're saying out your mouth. You're parenting what the enemy have subliminally placed in you. And that's what you're saying. You know what I'm saying? So yes, they're going to say they don't want us over there. But there are tons of Africans that understand who we are. Every single black African leader that came into leadership came to America to talk to us. Starting with Nkrumah, Lumumba, Julius Nyerere, you name all of them. They came and spoke to us because those leaders were elevated enough in their consciousness to know that we were one and the same. But yes, you're going to run across, you know what I'm saying, if you're in the United States of America and you run across brothers and sisters from the continent that are COs or cab drivers, you might get some negativity. You may get some negativity from them. But they are not the majority. That's a minority. They don't represent the majority of our people. You know, when I was in Egypt, I was in Kemet, and I was in the Nubian community. Them people love us. I was there. I saw those. They looked just like me. Some of them was darker than me. But they didn't say we not black. They said they knew who they were. We the same people. They say, you my brother. That's what they say. When I was in Ghana, I was in Accra, I was in Cape Town, I was in Kumasi. None of them said, that's a problem. They was like, you our brothers, my brother from another mother. Come home. When you coming home? So don't tell me anything about what our brothers and sisters in the continent are saying. Don't tell me. You got the prime minister, you got the sister out of Zimbabwe that's created an organization to unify all of us because they know who we are. They're very clear about who we are. Like I said, and this will be get to understand. When you do not know your culture, you suffer. But you don't recognize you suffer because you're suffering within an insane society that rewards your insanity. So your backwardsness in this society is rewarded. You can receive awards and money and all that stuff. They will tell you you have a master's degree, you have a PhD, and you're totally ignorant as to who you are. They will give you that. They will say you're intelligent. They will tell you these things, but you don't have a clue as to who you are from a cultural point of view. And when you don't have culture, you don't truly have yourself. You can't be a whole person devoid of culture, your culture. Because if you don't have your culture, then you have someone else's culture. And if you have someone else's culture, you're going to think, speak, and act as they would. And that's why so many of us are anti-us. That's why we're so quick to tear us down. That's why we're so quick to say, I'm not an African. I didn't come from Africa. We are repeating what they have said. We're repeating what they have said. But that's not the truth. All it takes is for you to commit yourself to a little bit of sincere and diligent study.
Brother, what do a sovereign African nation look like? And does that start with a community? And because me, as you know, I mean, without me even saying, everybody know I'm a Moorish American, and I believe that a lot of Moors have missed the mark. I think they made being Moorish fashionable as opposed to practical. I think they made Moorish being something to do as opposed to something to be, and they took it as like a nation in theory as opposed to actual getting your hands dirty and mortar to the ground and building a true nation. They love the concept and the word of nation, but they don't want to do the work of nation. What do a sovereign Pan-African nation looks like, brother?
Man, so that's a beautiful question. But to the point, one of the questions that you did ask, does it start with community? So I'll start there. You're absolutely correct, and that's why I began early on talking about character, because one of the things that has to happen is we have to build solid relationships, right? And those solid relationships has to multiply among other solid relationships, and then those solid relationships as a group come together to build a community. Yes. And then that community, over time should be building and linking up with other similar communities. And then you get when you get a conglomerate of communities, you can begin to move towards nationhood. All right. But some of the things that's going to be necessary, for a Pan-African sovereign nation, first and foremost, is a serious, solid military. Some type of defense system will have to be in place, because we live in a world where people steal your things. They come and take from you. They enslave you. They rob you. They kill you. Right? We're not living in the time period when we didn't treat each other that way, because there's no history when we ever treated each other that way prior to coming in encounter with Europeans. There's no history of that. You know what I'm saying? You cannot go into prehistory and find any of that. So we know we didn't behave that way towards one another. So we would need a solid military, a solid economic system. But the economic system is really going to grow out of a solid social system. So if we start off correctly, building the proper relationships would turn into marriages, would turn into communities, and communities are becoming interfacing with one another. We got the social system that will become the economic system. Then you're going to need solid governance. I'm not going to say politics or political apparatus. I'm going to say a governance system. You're going to need a governance system, a solid governance system of, once again, men and women of solid character that stands on serious spiritual principles. I would say men and women that's standing on my act. Standing on my act. And then from those 3 points right there, you got your military, your economic system, you got your governance, then you can regulate everything else in terms of what you're going to do, how you're going to move, what your education is going to look like. It's going to mirror, your educational system is going to mirror your social system, because the education really starts in the home and takes place in the community, realistically, right? It's not something that takes place outside of the community. So when you got solid men and women that's on the same times that you're on, that have the same ideals and principles and aspirations and sentiments, then all of you become the educators of all the children. And when you put that in place, it replicates itself.
Let me play the angel's advocate for a second. Many people would say that we are so spoiled right now. You know, we can. I told a brother that came and visited me from Detroit. Matter of fact, he was from Flint, Michigan, if you will. And he came. He said, "Man, y'all got a lot going on around here," because I took him through Park Heights. You know, I took him through Park Heights because that's where, you know, I do a lot of moving and whatever I'm doing, whatever. So I took him through Park Heights. He said, "Man, y'all got a lot going on." I think it was Garrison we rode through, and he said, "Y'all got a lot going, look like homeless people." I said, "Man, listen, a lot of these people out here because they want to be out here, you know." I said, "Man, we rarely see any skinny homeless people." I say, you know, man, Baltimore, man, they got food everywhere that people want to eat. I said, man, some people out here is because they want to be out here. And I said, man, for all intents and purposes, we have become a spoiled people, and some of our people just have not implemented strict to come out of certain conditions that they know not good for them. What do you have to say for some? Say, okay, for we to build a nation, we first got to look at the opposition and the spoiled psychology that has plagued our community, or is that another myth and we got enough, but we just haven't organized yet?
So this is what I would say to that. I'm glad you bring it up, because it's from an organizational point of view, it's incorrect to think that we can only proceed when we have everybody on board. That's incorrect.
Come on now.
That's incorrect. And that's how we reason a lot. If you listen to the comments, they're reasoning that way. That's white analysis once more working at us. It's incorrect. That's like if you and I were incarcerated, and everybody incarcerated, there's 3,000 of us in prison incarcerated, and we being beat down, deprived of food. You know, every night somebody being taken out their cells. You know, they put us in the hole, and we start trying to organize to get up out of there. It makes us absolute fools to not move until the whole 3,000 is on board. That's foolishness, right? You organize with those who are ready to organize, and then you move and you get done what you can get done.
Brother, that's something that a brother told me, that me and you kind of have the same type of spill. I said about a few weeks ago, I gave examples, and this was in the temple. I gave an example on the temple page, whereas though you got countries that is small as 800 square feet. I mean, at back in the day, not square feet, so 800 square miles. You know what I mean? And you have countries that don't have a million people. Some of them have 5,000 people in the early buildings of countries. And so I'm with that same thing, that you take those who are ready and those that are ready to put in the work, and you get it done. When you talk about a military, one thing I always say is, with this United States, and they would bomb the MOVE movement in Philadelphia, and we talk about a military, what would that, and I don't want you to go too far into it, but what does that look like? Does that mean, I think military, from my point of view, is intelligence to know how to move, to protect. And if it takes extreme measures, then that may be on the table too. But what do you they bomb moved in the middle of Philadelphia?
So look at it like this. Yes, that was an aerial strike. Yes, it was. So think about it like this, because, like you say, there's only but so much that can be put out over these airwaves. So
absolutely.
Basically, what I'm saying is this. If and when sovereignty is obtained, if we don't put things in play to defend it and protect it, we'll lose it. Simple as that.
Absolutely.
And that's with everything that we have as a people, right? We have the move experience so we can learn from that experience, right? We have Tulsa, Oklahoma, so we can learn from that experience. We have Rosewood, Florida, so we can learn from that. That's the reason why the study is important. But the one thing we need to know is this. When you think about Vietnam, the Vietnamese, they were successful in their attempts to do what they did. I'm going to tell you why. Because they organized.
That's right.
They organized for it. And they said that if we can't have what we want, then nobody gets it. And we are willing to do what needs to be done to achieve what we need to achieve, right? That's a level of intelligence and consciousness. Granted, our consciousness is in crises, no doubt. But because it's in crises, I'm still optimistic and I know who we are and I know the power of us. So because I can recognize with the fact that we are messed up on a lot of levels, it doesn't stop me. It doesn't daunt my spirit, right? It keeps me going because I know that we descend from the greatest beings that ever stood on this planet. And you can go through history and validate that. And I don't care what nobody say. You can call it what you want to call it. Call it ethnocentric, call it egocentric, call it arrogance, whatever you want to call what I just said, you call it that. And I guarantee you, if you look hard enough, you can validate what I said. No people that's standing compares to who we are.
Come on,
nowhere
man.
in the world.
Come on, man.
You know what I'm saying? So on the basis of that, we will be victorious on the basis of that. Yes, we got a lot of people to wake up. A lot of us are asleep. A lot of us are cowards and we're afraid. And because we're afraid, that's why we attack each other so much. Because I'm never going to attack somebody that's fighting for us, even if I disagree with his position. If I can reason that he or she is genuinely for us,
that's right.
I'm not gonna go against him or her.
That's right.
Because I disagree. You know, you're not going to find me going against Dr. Martin Luther King because I disagree with that philosophy. I'm not going against King. Right? So when you're so bent on going against those that you know in your heart are for us, you are trying to mask your own cowardice. You're trying to mask your own cowardice. You're trying to protect the fact that you're a coward and you want to hide it because somebody that comes strong and come forceful is doing what? They're shining a light on your cowardice. So you don't want to be revealed. So what you do, you start trying to dig up arguments to push against that individual because you're just a coward. You know, simple as that. See, I come out that tradition of Malcolm X, Garvey, Delaney, Garnett, you know what I'm saying? Alexander Crumble, you know what I'm saying? Henry Bishop McNeil Turner, you know, Henry Howland Garnett, when he was young, he was on a boat trip. This is just a quick story. We're talking about in the 1800s. With it, brother. This is in the 1800s, right? He was on a boat, you know, working on a boat or whatever. And he had messed his leg up at that. So he walked with a limp. So when he got off this little journey from the boat, he got back to town. He realized that some Europeans who was trying to re-enslave his family had came to his house. And they threw his house in shambles. Because his father had to run, the mother had to run. I think his little sister had got captured or whatever, right? Man, the first thing Garnett did, Garnett grabbed that blade and went looking for them jokers. He went looking for them in the 1800s, right? Before 1865. He went looking for them. But no, they did what? He grabbed the blade and he went up that road looking for those Europeans that came looking to re-enslave his family. Because, you know, his family and ran from the plantations down here in Maryland. They ran. And them jokers, you know what I'm saying, they came looking. And Garnett wasn't having that. You know what I'm saying? The same with Martin Delaney. Martin Delaney had strapped up with a pistol. You know what I'm saying? He said, you know what I'm saying, if a European, you know what I'm saying, whoever he is, if he come across this threshold, he say one or two things gonna happen. Either both of us gonna die or he gonna die. but he ain't coming here doing it under my family. So that's a tradition that I come from. I come from a Pan-Africanism that ain't being pushed over on. Not afraid, you know what I'm saying? I don't sit up there, not afraid of these people. And all we can do is always talk about, well, you know this, they're going to do this to you. They're going to do that. Man, I spent 13 years and 9 months in prison. I spent 2 years in Supermax. I was stuck in the hole in Supermax. Them people couldn't break me. I was stripped down naked in the hole for 2 weeks with nothing but a hole in the floor to use the bathroom. So I know how demonic these individuals are. I'm very clear about who they are, but they don't frighten me. They don't stop me from doing what needs to be done. We need to wake up. And somebody got to have the courage to tell us that we need to wake up.
It's something.
I come to tell the truth.
It's something that you meant Martin Luther King, because you right on the wavelength. It's something that's how you then rode right on the wavelength of some of the themes we've talked about here on Moorish World TV. Recently we was talking about somebody came for Dr. Martin Luther King, and I had to come to the defense. I'm like, what have you done? What are you talking about? And they was talking about how he set us back. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And they only go by the messages that the European have put on the screen that has softened his message up. But he had a tough line message too. And one of the things that I put out there is that now, I can't stand there and let somebody beat me upside my head and spray me with hoses. That wouldn't be my philosophy. However, I don't think that's total weakness either, because some of the people that was told to do that, they also had a fighting spirit, and they had to resist that fight just for the movement because of what was the mandate of the movement. Do you think that we'll ever have that type of energy that going to do what the movement say do, as opposed to do what I say do? You think we'll ever return to that?
That's a great question, but I would say this. Well, PLM and several other organizations here in Baltimore, I know we are pushing to build that type of thing. That's an act of discipline. We've lost a lot of discipline as a people. Like, we've lost the discipline. So a lot of us haven't been through anything. So those individuals who was in the movement, one thing about the movement is they went through training. They didn't just jump in the movement. They was put through training before they got sent out there. See, nowadays, all you got to do is wake up one day and say, I want to be in the movement. And you just jump out there and start doing stuff, right? No training. You don't get no know-how. So what we have today are people who lack the discipline to follow the structure of a movement. They don't have the discipline to follow a structure. You know, so when you have people that are indisciplined, they're always going to compromise the work of a movement. So we're kind of starting over, meaning that people have to be re-educated and retrained and put through a process to build their discipline so they can execute. Because a lot of us can't do that. You know, we can't follow instructions. You know, we don't show up on time. We don't keep our word. We don't follow through. We don't do the things that allow a movement to even work. You know what I'm saying? And then we want to justify when we short. We don't even want to take accountability. You know what I'm saying? It's always a but or, rather than just saying, damn, I did say I was going to come and I didn't show up. You know, I was wrong. We want to try to justify being not where we're supposed to be at. You know, we dealing with that. And then you gotta use so much time going back and forth with people, trying to get them to understand. You know, we can't get a movement done like that. But that's because, I'm gonna tell you why. Post 1968, I'm to where we at now. So let's run some things down. Post 1968, bam, what happens, right? You get the black exploitations, you get a little bit of heroin that's coming in more into the communities in the early 70s, and get prostitution. You get all this stuff that's going on, right? We're being broken down, right? Morally, we're being broken down. You got these all these social service laws that are being passed that's hitting the family, the black family. We're being broken down. The late 70s coming into the 80s, you got Jimmy Carter leaving office. You got Ronald Reagan coming in. You got that revolution that's going on down there in South America. You know what I'm saying? So he linked up in that revolution. And what he doing? What the 80s are doing? Man, they flooding our communities with crack cocaine and cocaine, right? We've been flooded. So today, what we're dealing with in 2024, we're dealing with people who are victims of that crack era. That's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people who don't have the attention span to learn anything, right? All they can do is jump around on social media and jump from YouTube to YouTube videos, little clips and stuff like that on TikTok. They need 3-minute clips now. And they're getting their information that way. They're getting 3 minutes from TikTok, 3 minutes from Facebook, 3 minutes from YouTube, they getting 3 minutes here, you know what I'm saying? And they trying to put all those little clips together to make some knowledge, right? And then they running with it. But they don't have the discipline to sit, to listen, to discern, right? To reflect, to take a note, to do a little bit of cross-referencing, to do some comparison. That's gone, right? So now you're trying to move and get some work done. We can't get anything done at the level we need to get it done at because you're dealing with adults who are children.
Do you think, say for instance, a European say, you know, I really think that you got a good thing going, and I really want to join and help. Can a European be genuinely about our cause on the ground in the midst of the planning and the execution of our liberation?
No.
Brother, you listen, I ask these questions because we're in a world where everybody want to play along to get along. And it's crazy that I even have to ask this question. But in this era now, it's like everybody wants to play along to get along in order to be accepted in all of these different circles and get these benefits. But if you could expound a little bit, what do you think the reasoning? What is your reasoning behind the mixing, or as we will call amalgamating, with Europeans in our struggle? What would be the detriment of that?
First and foremost, I'm gonna do it this way. All things within the world we live in today are political. Every single thing. Your thinking, your speech, your behavior, it's all political. And by political, this is what I mean, so we can be real clear. See, political simply refers to what's best for a group. That's what it means to be political. It's group. Politics is always rooted in it's group interest. That's the only reason a Chinese would run for to be a mayor or a governor. Right. Only reason a Chinese or Japanese or anybody will run for office is so that you can get access to the resources of that office to leverage it for your community.
That's right.
So to sit down and say you're going to genuinely organize with Europeans when all things are political, there's no way that they're going to organize with you when your gripe, your real and true gripe, is with them and the system that have created the hardship in your life. They're never truly going to go against that. Now, what they tend to do is this. They tend to use what they think is sympathy. So they move from a place of sympathy, and because we want to always move from a place of being inclusive, because once again, we're operating from their thought system. And within their thought system, to be exclusive is bad, right? For us to be exclusive, focusing on us, is bad. So we don't want to be perceived as a bad person. So therefore, we take the route of trying to be inclusive. But there's nothing inclusive about them, right? They built this power on the basis of being what? Exclusive. That's how they built it, on being exclusive. But they have got us because we function from their thought system. We believe that if we propagate, if we postulate, if we advocate to be exclusively about ourselves, somewhere it makes us bad. So we don't want to be a bad person. We don't want to be, quote unquote, a reverse racist, something you can't be. So we operate against our best interest. And that's why we're still in the condition that we are in, because when you don't place you first and your kind first, you're operating outside of your nature. I'll give you an example. Anything that functions outside of its nature is actually in a state of some type of insanity. I'll give you an example. If we watch the dog attempting to act like a cat, we would think something was wrong with that dog. We would think that dog is in his right state of mind. If we watch, you know what I'm saying, a lion attempting to be a rhino, we would think something was wrong with that lion, right? So anytime a species behaves outside of its nature, something is wrong with that species.
I think to your point, let me share this to your point. Like, even if we look at cross-culture appropriation, when we look at a Chinese person to popping or something like that, when at first it's like, it's a Chinese dude, we gotta stop and stare for a second. And when Eminem first started rapping, they try to make it normal now, but he first came on the scene, like, we always would say, quote unquote, hey, you're a white boy. You know what I'm saying? Because it wasn't something that we would normally accept to be the norm, because it was something that we created. It was something that we embraced as something as our culture. And to even see them doing something, I'll give you another example. The NAACP lady was a European, and she was playing herself as one of us. We looked at it like it was crazy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, Rachel. We looked at it as if it was crazy. And so I don't see why we don't look at our struggle and intermingling our struggle with other groups as if it's not crazy. One thing we know for sure, especially here in Baltimore, I don't know if you noticed it, but like in Catonsville, I gave this example the other night. You will find these Indians on these political billboards now trying to take parts of Catonsville for themselves. Themselves. They got the Indian grocery store up there. They got a couple of them up there. They got their restaurants up there at the end of Route 40. So when you say politics is personal to a people, I said it personal to a people or to a group. Would you say that we have lacked the political education to harness the power of true politics?
Yes, without a doubt. And that goes, it also, yes. And it's interesting because all of our issues can literally be reduced down to what I've been hitting at, cultural displacement. See, culture is political. And when you don't have your culture, you're not going to think, speak, and act in your best interest. And we don't understand what our culture is because we've been put through so much. And so, yes, you're correct. That's the reason why, a lot of the things that we say is incorrect politically. We talk about being politically correct, but we don't recognize that to be politically correct is to actually put your people first. So, yes, what they're doing up there in Catonsville is a political act. And they're supposed to be trying to take something for themselves. You know what I'm saying? We are the ones who don't have enough sense to see what's happening and seeing how we still gonna be victimized, right? Because they're not our allies. They're not our allies. Those individuals, those Indian people, they are the ones who invaded and came into Ethiopia and took advantage of Ethiopia. So most of those jokers that come from Ethiopia, not real Ethiopians, they're not real Africans, they're Indians. You see what I'm saying? And let's talk about them for a minute too. Yeah, because they're on my radar anyway. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, let's talk about them for a minute.
Let's go.
When Gandhi was in South Africa, man, he ain't had nothing to say about what was happening to African people in South Africa.
Not at all.
Not at all. He could care less. And he actually called them a kafir. You know what I'm saying? He called them a kafir.
Sure
a
did.
Kafir is no different than the word nigger in South Africa. You know what I'm saying? His whole idea, his whole thinking was for those Indians. That was his concern. He was an Indian nationalist. That's what Gandhi was. And so those Indians, they ain't never no allies of ours. Yeah, every now and then you might get one or two, but you can't never take the minority as the majority. You can never take the minority as the majority because you're going to be walking around, you're going to get your head knocked off. They don't vote, they don't deal with us like that. We always are dealt with on the basis of the majority. Always. You know what I'm saying? I don't care what's going on. One of us do something wrong, all of us are held accountable for. Simple as that. They're not making no distinctions, the stuff that we tend to do, because our political mind is turned off. Our political mind is turned off because we're afraid to just stand on us and be for us. Because once again, we think to be for us is wrong. So we got all this stuff that's going on. It goes back to what Dr. W.E. Du Bois said when he said the double consciousness. We're still dealing with that. I like to call it the ghost of double consciousness because we're still haunted by that. We don't know who and what we are. And because we don't know who and what we are, we don't know what positions to take. We don't know what to stand on because we're so freaking confused up here. And we're unwilling to sit down with people that have figured this thing out so we can start getting ourselves together. We got so much arrogance going on and so much egotism going on that we don't want to learn. We don't want to listen. So we prefer to stay culturally off-centered, and by being culturally off-centered, we keep a lot of confusion going. So rather than getting ourselves culturally in alignment, so we can begin to erase the confusion that we bring into spaces, like we'll bring confusion into a healthy space. This is a healthy space. This is a space for dialogue for people that want to hear this information. So if you don't want this information, don't come into this space. But that's that cultural misalignment, right? You're so twisted in your thinking that you will come into a healthy space and cause confusion, right?
And that's,
because you get yourself.
And you know, that's a very common thing too. You have people that will just come in here for no other reason, just to inject some form of comment that precipitates confusion for no other reason whatsoever. Let me ask you, I want to take a spin real quick. One of the things that challenges, major challenges that we have in our community is healthy love relationships. I know me and my wife, sometimes we battle, you know. How do we address to get to healthy, loving, dedicated, loyal relationships? Because we can't build anything without these healthy, loyal relationships. Can we go into that area for a second?
Yes, my brother. The first thing I would say is this: for those of you who just heard the question that was put forth, before I answer the question, just know that me and my wife, we have a consulting service, and we deal with relationships. And me and my wife been together for 19 years on March the 16th. This March the 16th make 19 straight years where we've been together. We've never broken up. We've never been kicking each other out. We never beat each other up. None of those things, right? But to your point,
no clothes out the window.
No clothes out the window, none of that, right?
Yes, sir.
We can only build healthy relationships when you have healthy people, right? So it has to start with two culturally sound men and women coming together to build something new. And the new is the union that they create. That's the new. That requires a whole lot of emotional maturity and spiritual groundedness, because it's not easy to do what you're trying to do. When you're building a relationship, you are attempting to do something that mathematically is hard to do. And that is this: to take two and make one. That's what you're trying to do. Because the union or the marriage becomes its own entity. It becomes its own entity that requires nurturing and care. But that marriage or union, it goes through the same developmental processes as a human being. Infancy, toddlerhood, childhood, adolescence, adult. The relationship has to develop. And if you don't have the emotional stamina, you're not going to be able to endure the struggles that come with that. And yes, you're going to bail out. Right? You gotta have emotional stamina, and that stems from the quality of your spiritual awareness. See, the quality of your spiritual awareness gives birth to your emotional stamina that's going to allow you to be able to endure the beautiful struggle that you must go through to birth this thing that you call your union or your marriage with this other individual. And if you can't get through that struggle, you're not going to have it.
Now, with that being said, once that is understood, and you strive and you work towards that fruition of a relationship, is it then smooth sailing?
No, great question. Great question. The relationship never truly plateau, right? Because we are required to keep it evolving, because we are required individually to keep evolving. So the more that we evolve, the more the relationship evolves. And that evolution of the relationship is contingent upon us overcoming new struggles. So the new struggle, because see, when you got 10 years in, you're not gonna have the same struggles you had when you had 3 years in. So that 10-year mark presents a different set of struggles that requires a different level of growth and development from you and her. So you get over that, then you moving. Now you have 15 years. A new set of struggles are going to come. And as long as you are in the relationship, you will be presented with a new set of beautiful struggles to endure. I like to call them beautiful struggles because I don't want us to think I'm talking about anything that's bad or negative. I'm not talking about you being broke or I'm not talking about that. I'm just saying, the struggles that come with us deeply knowing one another, because we are so dynamic as individuals that you're not going to just know me in 5 years. Yes, we're going to be tight and we're going to be close, but you're going to know me deeply in time, through time. I'm going to know you as a woman deeply in time and through time. So yes, me and my wife got 19 years in on March the 16th. We're not going to plateau there, right? There are greater challenges for us because we got to become better. So we need those new challenges to become better, and our relationship grow and expand on the basis of how we tackle the new struggles together.
When we look at Pan-Africanism, right, and we look at as a collective, the diaspora, if you will, every nation has a different or variation. I don't want to say different, the variation of one spiritual system. What would be the spiritual system? Because this is what I see. And like I say, people got the Moorish Science Temple of America wrong. And I've been a revolutionary as it relates to the teachings of the Prophet Noble Ali, that it's the same system. It's just a different variation that is good to the palate of a brother like me and maybe somebody else. But for another person, another expression of that same truth may come through another system, but it's the same system, different variation. What would be the system of a healthy Pan-Africanist spiritual system?
That's a great question. It's excellent you say that. I think that any true, authentic Pan-Africanist could, in fact, adopt any one of those authentic African spirit systems they chose to. However, for us PLM, what we tend to subscribe to, we subscribe to this right here, NOMO, which we define it as being a unified field of African spirituality. By that, what we mean is that we look at the underlying unifying principles across the continent, and we utilize those underlying and unified spiritual principles, and we weave them together into a functional and operational whole, and that's what we conduct our lives by. I'll give an example. So that's like saying that when it comes to a supreme divinity, I would say I could say Chukwu, I could say Olodumare, I could say Enyame, I could say Ama, I could say Ra, and I would use them interchangeably because those supreme divinities, and even though I just spoke from different areas, Chukwu is Igbo, Olodumare is Yoruba, Enyame is Akan, Ra is Kemetic, all these different places. I'm saying Mware, Nga, all of them are supreme divinity, but they are understood to be the same divinities. But there's a language, in a sense, depending upon the geography of where these groups of people were, you're going to hear the variations in the language they choose to use in that particular sense. However, and by those groups having what is known as, you can call it ethnic alliances or allegiances. So you might have the Yoruba people, strictly practicing that particular tradition. They may not necessarily cross over, but they can relate. When they talk to an Akan person and they can relate, or they say, yeah, that's like us, we do this. They see the similarities. The unique thing about those of us in the United States of America, from my perspective, my position, is that we don't necessarily have ethnic allegiances in that sense, right? So therefore, we could utilize any one of those systems to make it work for us in a combination, right? Because what we are here in the United States of America, we are a composite of what our ancestors were. We're the composite. And make no mistake about it. Let me say this again. And we are the Africans in the United States of America.
Brother, so if you go
the
through
highest, we are the most evolved.
Brother, listen.
Africans on the planet.
Brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, Dr. Assar said, man, y'all something alike. If you go through my videos, I always say Africans in America. Africans in America. If anybody go through my channel, you can go and check it out, because we are those ancestors of yesterday, today, without a doubt or contradiction.
Right.
We are those fighters. And the thing is that many of us do not want to get into that fight again, because we've been fighting so long. It's like in their DNA, some of us in the DNA, it's like, what we fighting for? It's like we get defeated. But when you come on here, it's like a breath of fresh air, because we don't hear this all the time. We just don't hear this all the time, especially on social media. Now, let me get to this point right here. When you're talking about because you're an educator, your wife is an educator. When you're talking about educating our children, principally, because I tell you this, there is no doubt in my mind that the seeds that are planted in children, from your wife in particular, and I can only imagine from you, because y'all are one. What is the principle? What is the essence of the education for the child to get them fired up? Because these children, you know what I'm talking about. These children be fired up, and I don't like to give too much, because everything ain't for everybody. But what gets these children fired up?
What gets
y'all get these children fired up, bro?
The key, one of the key principles is introduce them to themselves. Introduce them to themselves. Help them understand their own genius. Right? You tap into that genius. Challenge them. Don't move according to the tradition, how they traditionally do things. You go to school, you're in the 4th grade, they teach you one skill set, and they draw that skill set out the whole year. They make you wait over the summertime, and they teach you another skill set, the following year. That's antiquated, and it doesn't work, and it doesn't work for us. But Black children has a dynamic mind, right? It's vibrant, and because it's vibrant, it has to move at a rapid rate. And so once you create the rhythm in the classroom, the children going to adapt to the rhythm. It's the rhythm that has to be created. They're going to adapt to that. They're going to adjust to the rhythm. And when you begin to introduce them to the new information and the knowledge and show them how they can grasp it and then have them to utilize it back, it excites them. And the more they become excited, that's a term that we use here. That excitement is nothing but spiritedness. It's spiritedness, spiritual. They're spiritually charged. And when you spiritually charge them, they are open. And as long as the environment is what we define as being dialogical, meaning child-centered, whereas though it's from you to them, from them back to you, you can take them anywhere educationally that you want to go with them.
What do you say to the idea that when these children are charged up, and our community is not in the position to, for instance, if I have a child and my child is being educated in that type of environment, which we speak of, that they're fired up. And, when I say fired, I'm talking about they just ready to roll. They're ready to learn. They're eager to learn. And then we try to say, okay, all right, now it's time to go to the next level. And we look for the next level, and we say, we got the public school here, and I'm not seeing the next level over here. What kind of dynamic do we as a people have to put in place to ensure that the next level is consistent with that first level? What I'm trying to say is that a lot of times I watch a lot of children, and I don't want this to happen to mine, and I'm not going to let it happen to mine. I watch a lot of children get fired up and then get dumbed down. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? What can we do as a community to not allow that to happen? if not now, in the future. If you understand I think you understand what I'm saying. You know,
I do.
It's a sad thing to see too.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we have to do, I like to organize from a position of being very realistic, and ideally, we would have to control the educational institutions. That's ideally. Is that going to happen tomorrow or next year or 3 years out? That's not going to happen. But that's ideal. So the next best thing after that would be, you know, we homeschool. You keep your child home and educate your child in your own house. You know, but is that going to happen? We're not, because it requires a level of discipline that we lack. It requires some discipline. We lack that discipline. We lack that level of commitment. So that's not happening either, you know, at the level that you're talking about it on. But you do have people that's homeschooling. So the next thing I can say is that we have to be willing to place a value on education, value it enough that we are willing to enroll our children in educational programs, right? So like the program that we have, the Kimoyo Shule Africana, that's a weekend school for children ages 8 through 12. That's the age going into the next cycle, 8 through 12. And we operate on Saturdays and Sundays. You know, they get everything. They get reading comprehension, African, you get an owl story, spirituality, philosophy, African philosophy, you name it. They get the STEM on Sundays, they get physical fitness. They're getting all that on the weekends, every weekend, every Saturday and Sunday, if the parent has the discipline to put the child in and make sure the child attends. But oftentimes we struggle with the discipline and our children suffer. The children suffer. So yes, so when you got children that's going to WDC, that's being fired up like that, they need to transition into another institution that's going to build on their fire. Oftentimes what happens is when they transition into the school system, they are going to get dumbed down. Why? Yeah. Because the school system is not designed to match the fire that have been turned on inside them. They're not designed to do that. If you send your child to school, leaving WDC, you got a 4-year-old that know how to do addition and subtraction. But you send them to school and they go to pre-K. They're not teaching them addition and subtraction in pre-K. So you think that teacher going to focus on developing that skill in your child? No. They're not going to focus on developing that skill in your child. They're going to let it die dormant and strip it out of your child. So your child can be in sync with the other 27 children that's pushing blocks running in their class.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Well, somebody mentioned here, right here, they say, GS, my family has not lived in Africa for thousands of years. If we ever lived in Africa, my family never talked about Africa. We came from somewhere else, GS. I can show you the truth as I know it. Let me say this to you, Brian G. Many of us family never talked about Africa. That's not a unique story. Many of our family would say, you know, we got Indian in our family, we Cherokee, we was this, we was that. But a lot of that cannot be verified with any data to satisfy me, you know. But what I do know, brother Brian G, and then I'll let Brother Baba speak on it. What I do know, brother, is history records who we are, our experience, and even our mannerisms and our rhythm and our everything about us says who we are. Now, if we would do the proper research to rediscover who we are in our place in history, I think we can discard what we was told and go by what the data says. But what do you say to that, Brother Imhotep, when a brother says, well, my family never said anything about Africa. We haven't been there for thousands of years, if we ever been there. What do you say to that?
So what I would say, I'm going to show you, like early on, my mission is not to convince anybody, you know, nor am I here to try to proselytize, nor convert. So my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, none of them ever talked about Africa. I didn't find Africa. Right. I didn't find Africa until I was 21 years old. That's when I found out about this place called Africa. And I didn't readily embrace it. You know, it took me to really study and understand and research and look things up to recognize and realize, you know, who I am and who we are. So all I can say is that I know who I am. I know what people I descend from. And I know what people I belong to. Any person who say they're not from Africa, that's his or her choice at this point in the game. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of work to do. So I'm only here for those who are receptive to the African message. You know, that's simple as that. Those who are receptive to the message, that's what I'm here for. You know, because there's so much research out there, right? I mean, you got tons of archaeologists, man. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so you mean to tell me it's a worldwide conspiracy? You know what I'm saying? To just lie about that? You got Chinese archaeologists, you got Japanese archaeologists, you have Australian archaeologists, you got, man, Mexican, you know, you got tons of archaeologists, right, that are attesting to the fact of where our life originated at and who we are. You know what I'm saying?
And one thing I don't like to get bogged down in that conversation, but I like to answer brothers like Brian G, because these are great supporters of Moorish World TV. So I don't mind asking non-antagonistic questions, if you will. You know what I mean? I don't mind that. But what I want to point out is that when we're talking about, let's get back to Pan-Africanism for a second. What does, say for instance, Pan-Africanism in America connecting to communities in Africa? Is there, I'm looking at trade and commerce and business, because without money, we're nowhere in this world today. We're going to need it. Some type of, something of value to trade. In building this Pan-African society, is connecting and creating relationships for commerce that we can control. How does that look?
That's a part of the process. So the whole idea of the one world community of African people is based on that. So the resources that we will want to, you know, actually utilize, the raw material, the raw resources, would actually be resources that's coming out of Africa. So there are organizations that are on the ground in Africa, Pan-Africanist organizations on the ground in Africa that's doing the work to unify and unite us. You know, so it's not just a push that's coming from the United States of America or Africans in the United States of America. Right. Like, it's really, this is already a worldwide movement that's striving to make this thing happen. So in terms of how we're going to move in terms of trade, me personally, you know, how I look at it, I look at it from the perspective of looking at what the lands has to offer, you know, the raw materials in each land, and being able to harness that. So yes, we're going to need engineers, we're going to need scientists, we're going to need those kind of individuals, we're going to need that level of intelligence, you know, to take back. You know, that's what Paul Cuffey did. When Paul Cuffey took them 37 families back to Africa in 1812, I believe, you know, he took back people who had skills. When you read his writings, that's what he said. You know what I'm saying? He said we need people that have skills in, you know, husbandry and land and agriculture. So they took skilled people back. When you read the breakdown of Dr. Martin, you know, Martin Delaney, his breakdown, that's what they say. Like they say, you know, we're not just trying to take anybody back to Africa, you know, and I'm not advocating back to Africa. I'm making a point that even back then they understood the necessity of bringing qualified people. So yes, we're going to need qualified people. We're going to need the best economists amongst us that understand it from an African point of view. Because the one thing we can't do is implement a capitalistic system. That's the one thing we can't do. If we do that, there's no need to build a nation. So capitalism's outdoor. In fact, we can't use no European economic system. It has to be an indigenous African economic system, something derived from our ancestral way that's consistent with the way that things are today, because we live in a different era of time. But it can't be based on competition, greed. It can't be based on that. You know what I'm saying? Everything about them is competition, conquest, conflict. No, we can't build that way. We got to build a different way.
What do you say to as we get close to wrapping it up, man? This is a beautiful conversation, and I'm gonna tell you, I'm a talker. I can go through this all night, and brother, you dropping some powerful jewels on here. What do you say to people that say, okay, you Pan-Africanists, why don't you just go back to Africa? You know, that's the European, that European, but you know, that is something that people say all the time. They told me that the other what was that? A few weeks ago? They told me that a few weeks ago. You saying all that? Then won't you go back to Africa, brother Tahaka Bay? Go back to Africa. When I'm only trying to express the principles that our ancestors had and that we have in our DNA to further us along. And those who choose to go back, they're welcome to go back. But that ain't the message from me. The message is to exemplify the greatness of our ancestors wherever our feet may be. But what do you have to say for those who say, okay, you're talking this Africa stuff, then why don't you just go back?
So the first thing I would say is that if anyone decided to go back, I wouldn't be against a brother going back. But I like to look at it like this, right? See, I'm African not only because I descend from there, I'm African because that's who I am through and through.
Come on,
right?
Man.
See, to be African in these days and times is more than phenotype. See, phenotype play a part. It plays a part. But truly to be African is to have the mind of an African. And so my mind can manifest wherever I'm at on this planet. So I don't necessarily have to physically migrate. I can be here, but be in sync and be in conjunction with my brothers and sisters there. But when I speak about African sovereignty, I'm talking about sovereignty for African people throughout the world, not just in the United States of America, but because if you're paying attention, the USA is falling apart, right? Oh, yeah. And the reason it's falling apart is this. White people have never built a civilization or a society that lasts long. They've never, it's not in their makeup because they robbed, steal, and kill too much. It's too much conflict. You can't build that way. You can't sustain anything like that. You can't, think about this. How can you build an economic system that can allow a person to do a hostile takeover? So me and you, Baba Tahaka, we come together tomorrow, we sit down, we put the plan together, we start a nice little company, a corporation, a business, we rolling for 10 years, and then you got some people, and we got a board, and now you got some people that's over there, and they buying out shares, and they orchestrate a hostile takeover, and take our business, kick you and I out, and we feeding our family. How can something like that be legal, right? But it's legal in this society to do that.
Absolutely.
You know what I'm saying? So these people can never build anything that's going to last. And for anybody that's stuck up in these Europeans behind that way, you're going to die with these Europeans. You're going to collapse when they collapse. But they ain't never built nothing that have lasted. Greece, Rome, France, Britain, none of them. It can't last. This place will not make it. They won't get there.
I was watching one of your I'm gonna take about 10 more minutes. I was watching one of your presentations, and somebody asked you, "Would you run for mayor?" Would you, brother? I had to educate myself on you because I'm gonna tell you, Dr. Asar said, you and him, y'all got the same passion, a similar passion, and so I was like, man, let me check brother out. You know what I'm saying? So, brother said, "Would you run for mayor?" And you said, "Absolutely." What would that look like? With that, we know the opposition, what that's going to look like. Clearly, we know what that's going to look like in this city. But what would that look like? A Pan-Africanist in position of power to distribute the resources. How does those? And I'm asking this for those who don't understand how politics work, that don't understand how power is distributed. And I'm asking, how does the resources distribute to our people look like, from the school, from the transportation, from the necessities that we need if you was in that position to distribute these resources? Because that's what political power is all about. Distributing the resources. That's and right. Like you say, the person that's in power usually distributed to their own people.
That's right. So that's an interesting question. So yes, that question was asked, and I answered that question, and I said yes, I would. I'm not, if it came down to it, I would do it. But to your point, how it would look offhand, what I would do, because keep one thing in mind: when you're in a position of leadership, you're there to serve the people, right? So I would be an embodiment of the majority. I'm an embodiment of the majority. The majority in Baltimore City is black people. So I embody the will of black people if I occupy that office. So the resources that's endowed in that office would be leveraged to move that body forward. Yes, I would think about the entire city because I live here, my family's here, and all my people are here. So I'm not saying I would neglect the city, but I would not continue in the same tradition that step on black people, that push black people to the side, that give the contracts to these big white corporations and overlook these black contractors that are great at what they do. I wouldn't do that, right? So the reason why it doesn't work for certain people, because they're afraid to think for themselves. They follow tradition. I wouldn't follow tradition. I'm gonna tell you the first thing I'll do. And I got in office. The first thing I do is this. I will put together a committee, and this committee will be tasked with a simple objective: get out into every single community and bring me back the names of the authentic organizations that's on the ground, that's doing the work, that got a consistency in the record. Get all of them together. And once we get the names, and then we're going to get a meeting with all of them. And they're going to tell me what they need to continue doing the work that they're already doing. And I'm going to get the resources in their hands.
That's what I'm talking about.
And we're going to take the city, and we'll take the city that way. Simple as that. I don't need $1 million. So I'm not going to be in there trying to steal some money and move some money around, trying to get a whole bunch of money. No, I'm not doing none of that. You know what I'm saying? Whatever come with the office, that's what I will get. But I will get everybody together that's already doing the work. You know what I'm saying? And I will make sure they get the resources in their hand to do what they need to do. And I will go inside those schools, and I will meet with the superintendent, and we have a serious meeting. And I say, listen, I know you can't go out and teach everybody in the school, but the one thing we're going to do, we're going to get us a cadre of principals that's ready, you know what I'm saying, to make their school a community institution, right? Because that's what it's supposed to be. And we're going to educate children. We're going to get these children up in here, and we're going to educate them. And we're going to do it differently. You know, if we got to come in here on some Saturdays, we're going to be here on some Saturdays. But we're going to educate this society. That's what we're going to do. Every single black child that's supposed to read will read.
My brother Page said, bro, you think Pan-African getting elected in Baltimore? Let me say this to Page. Brother Page, the concept is that in the words of Prophet Noble Drew Ali, there's enough work for all to do. You know what I'm saying? So from a political standpoint, whether it's Baba Imhotep or whether it's a spirit like Baba Imhotep, if we're going to be living in this society, somebody got to understand that we got to get a hold of the resources politically. We don't always got to go out there and say, buy some incense or buy or give me a donation. No, sometimes, because there is no government resources without the people. The people pay into it, and then they just redistribute it. Why wouldn't we want to have somebody with the spirit, with us first, distributed that which we put in? The government don't have no money without the people. So all we're saying is just get a hold of that which we put in and redistribute it to the cause that supports us.
Yeah. So with all due respect, my brother, I enjoyed the conversation, but I didn't know it's 11:30. But real quick, I do want to address this Page. You know, I don't sound like a politician. No politician is talking about doing what I'm talking about doing. You know what I'm saying? That's, I gotta say, and that's just me talking right now. You know what I'm saying? But make no mistake about it. You know, I have a consistent track record. You know what I'm saying? You can trace me all the way back to 1993 consistently. I've never stopped doing what I do. And if you go back and find any lecture of me, you're going to find a consistency. That's who I am. That's what I believe in. You know, but for the sake of conversation, I answered it that way. But there's a lot of things that I can't say on here and I wouldn't say on here. Make no mistake about it, if I ever ended up in such a position, you can rest assured that the city will change under my leadership.
Yeah. So 11:30 is the mark. But what I wanted to say, that the spirit of what you talk about need to harness that power to redistribute that to that group of people, which is us. So, brother, in closing, brother, we got to do this again. But in closing, brother, anything that we missed that you would like to share?
in closing, this is what I would like to share. In closing, let's not be too quick to judge those who are sincere. And you can always determine sincerity because sincerity has a track record, right? It has a consistent track record, right? The insincere, they jump around a lot. You can watch them, they're always around. They're not consistent. So we do the due diligence, right? You know who's sincere. And furthermore, truth resonates in your heart. You know what I'm saying? It resonates in your heart. So you know when someone is speaking truth to you because it resonates in your heart. So this is my thing right here. If you heard something tonight that resonates with you, then support the work that both of us are doing. You know, most of you, I'm sure most of you already support Brother Talker Bay because you on his platform. But support Bob and Hotep and the Race First movement and the Race First rally. Support all the work that we do. You know what I'm saying? You know, go to that website. You know what I'm saying? Purchase a book. You know what I'm saying? I got tons of books out. You know, quality stuff. Right? That's what this is about. Like everyone, you know what I'm saying? Cash your ankle somewhere. You know what I'm saying? Join a team. You know, we don't need everybody on the sideline critiquing. We don't need everyone on the sideline, you know what I'm saying, making points or spectators. No, we need everybody jumping in somewhere. Where you gonna jump in at? You know what I'm saying? If I'm missing something on my left side, that's because you should be standing over there picking it up for me. You know what I'm saying? Get beside me. If I'm missing on my right side, because you're not over there. I'm by myself. You see what I'm saying? That's what this is about, you know? But I'm saying it in a, not literally, but metaphorically, you know what I'm saying? Yes, I got an organization, but we're only so big. We need people. We need strong men and women. That's what we need, right? We don't need everybody on the sideline trying to pick something apart. You know what I'm saying? If you got a better solution, then bring it to us. Come sit down and talk to us and say, listen, I got a solution I think that can work or that can merge with what you're doing. Hear me out. That's my challenge to all of you. Let's get out the mentality of always sitting on the sidelines, spectating and waiting for an opportunity to attempt to pick something apart. Get your butt in the ring and get on the front line, and let's get some work done together.
That's what I'm talking about. And family, I wanna say, y'all gotta share this. Y'all gotta share this. Y'all know how I do my interviews. I always challenge the interviewee, and the brother came through in the clutch. I ask the questions that I see on the internet. I ask the question that I think can change and spark some interest. And I ask the questions that you might even have asked yourself. So I hope that I asked everything that that you may have thought about as it relates to Pan-Africanism. If you have not had your question answered, you can email me at MWTv updates@gmail.com or tahakabay@gmail.com. We can bring Baba back. In fact, I'm going to go to his lecture. Brother, can you tell us about your lecture? If you're in the Baltimore area, he has a lecture coming up April the 13th. Brother, let you share that real quick.
Yeah, so there's a lecture coming up April the 13th, a part of the Temple of New African Thoughts Community University series, and I'll be doing a lecture on Pan-Africanism, you know, and its implications for 2024. You know, so it's going to be a lot of what we covered today, but it's going to be some more things that I'll just talk about in that particular lecture. But if you in or near the Baltimore area, you would like to be in this lecture, April the 13th, 7 p.m. at TNAT, Temple of New African Thought. I don't have that address offhand, but you can look that organization up, and you know you can get that address. You know, come through.
And they telling me to stream it. I had to talk to the good doc and see what the doc say about that. But the doc might be streaming it on his platform at a later date, or it even could go on your platform. And what is your YouTube? Excuse me. What is your YouTube platform? I got the link in the comment section.
Yeah. My YouTube is the School of Urban Philosophy,
and the link is in the not the comment section. The link is in the description section. I want y'all to go there, and y'all got to go there to subscribe. I didn't even realize you had a YouTube channel until today. Like I said, I do things organically. And so I wanted to wait until you was going to come on. And then I wanted to view some content, and I went up there and it was refreshing. So I want to employ everybody who watching Moorish World TV, go and check out the content. It's the same conversation with more in-depthness because he has more videos up there and more different topics that are touched on. And there's a few other brothers up there. One of the brothers will be coming here with his book if I can get him on here. But y'all go there and check it out. Brother, I appreciate you coming through in the clutch. I can't wait to part 2. We got to do a part 2. I'm gonna look at the comment sections and see if I can get you on a part 2. If that's all right with you.
Sounds great. Let's make it happen.
Man, I appreciate you, brother. Thanks again. Peace and love.
Peace and love.
Hey, fam, y'all got you got to know that was that. Come on now, family. Come on now. Come on now. Come on now, family. Can I get a thumbs up for this interview? I think that was a fascinating interview. I like the brother passion. I like the brother fire. One thing, pardon me, one thing for sure, and two things for certain. This is the type of passion we need in our community. This is the type of passion that we need on these internet streets where you got all this misinformation, disinformation, and all of these people parading around like they're genuine, like they're serious, but they really not serious about this. They don't want no smoke. They don't want to really get busy on the ground. They want to turn on their camera, run their mouth, and claim to be Pan-Africanist, claim to be Moorish, claim to be this, claim to be that. But at the end of the day, when you run a check, just like Baba said, when you look at the history, you look at the track record, ain't nothing there. Ain't nothing there. And that's the problem with us. We'll let some Johnny come lately pop up, and then we start hearing them say they this, they that, and we look, and 2 years ago, they were something else. A year ago, they just adopted this as a fad, So family, do your research on people. This is a critical thinking platform. Just like you can research me, you can research anybody on the internet that's popping up claiming they're about something that we know they really not about. So family, I appreciate you joining me tonight. I'm going to go back and watch this tomorrow myself. And I ask you to go back, even if you got to watch it twice, help the numbers to get up, because this is the type of message that need to get out. We don't get these messages quite often. We don't get these type of messages quite often on the internet. Well, you ain't finding these type of messages. And I'm going throughout Baltimore, and I'm going to find all of those that are putting in the work. And we're going to bring some of them here. And then I'm going to hit the road, and we're going to find community workers that are passionate, not those that, these people, man, that get on these shows, man, they don't have no real work as it relates to uplifting people, but we're going to go find them, fam. I'm hitting the road, family. That's right. But anyway, peace and love, fam. I appreciate y'all. Tomorrow, the Indian brother that's supposed to have debate me, he didn't hit me back yet. So tomorrow, I don't know if y'all want to, I don't know if y'all want to see my breakdown of Diddy, man. What y'all think about Diddy, the immorality of Diddy, man? I got the whole case of Diddy. Man, I think I want to do something on Diddy, man. Diddy done went left, man. He done went left, man. And not in the toxic part that I want to highlight so much, but just the audacity of one that has been an influence of a culture. That's been an influence of a culture. Yeah, I might go over that tomorrow. I got the whole case. I got the case. I got the whole case. I got the whole case. I would like Doc. Come on here. Look at Doc. Doc say I might be able to swing by as I won't be traveling. Now listen, if I can get Doc up here tomorrow night, then we got to get Doc on here, because I want to talk about, I got some videos that I want to talk about the psychology and toxic behavior of some of this conscious community stuff. And when we say conscious community, that thing is dead. Ain't no such thing no more. But the behavior that people call conscious and these influencers that influence our people down the wrong path, I would love to get the commentary from Dr. Asar tomorrow, if that is possible. Family, we're going to be streaming 3 times a week. We're going to be streaming 4 to 5 times a week. And I'm bringing in guests. I'm bringing in all sorts of different personalities that can help awaken and open our mind up to a universal concept, a universal thought to move us forward. And if it rings in your heart, if it touches your heart, then maybe you can connect people in your community and move forward on the same principles, because something got to be done. Our man, the influences in our community is Sexy Red. The influences to the children is Sexy Red and Megan Thee Stallion and people like that. Kodak Blacks and we gotta make intelligent popular. We gotta make intelligence cool. We gotta make culture cool again. It's gonna take each and every one of us. And the internet is the bridge for us to communicate this. But man, we got to swim through a lot of murky stuff to get to it. But long as you here on Moorish World TV, we're going to keep it a buck. Thank you so much, Crip. I appreciate you. And we're going to bring on the toughest of the tough. I told you I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and sometimes we got to beat out these weirdos in order to bring in the real ones. And that's what we did tonight. So, family, I definitely appreciate you. I see y'all tomorrow night. We're going to find out what we're going to do tomorrow night. You know what I'm saying? Check 1, 2. Let's go. Yo, this is a story about a brother. You know what I mean? Yes, sir. Brother check from a small town, you heard? Check 1, 2. I spent much time in this small town. Yeah. Come on. Before I came to the big city. Let me talk about it. Check 1, 2. Listen up. I grew up on the wild side, the Naptown wild guy. Birthed in the trenches while I will punch you in your face if you get out of place. Many rides upstate told me to keep my boots laced. Mama used to tell me if you like it, I love it. I was bugging, living rugged, thugging like life wasn't nothing. Five Waters gave me my heart. Eastport taught me to grind and shine even in the dark. Fourth Ward taught me to pack that gun. And Gardens taught me that there was enough bread for everyone. Boston Heights taught me to sometimes it's okay to take flight. Oh my goodness, I love my life. I mean, when I used to go to Admiral Oaks or Newtown 20, we used to smoke that boat. And Robin Wood told me to watch my back, but parole is a little bit of all of that. Come on, real. In the system, wasn't Muslim or Christian, just a hard-headed fool that wouldn't listen. Mom was the greatest, yeah, she was a law to me. She gave me her all, but I still would fall victim to them lames and end up in them chains. 23 and 1 could drive any man insane. Instead, I reflected on the pain in the past. On how my pop was a ladies' man, took the wrong path, and feeling abandonment made me rebellious. Everyone predicted that I would be a failure. Did it in prison, serving a life sentence. But when I found the prophet, I had to bear witness. Oh Lord, if I can get you to think again, that day you can save yourself. I woke up that day. I bought you everything you need to save a nation. Now take it and save yourself. I woke up save yourself. Baltimore gave me my stripes. At the same time, saved my life. From Greenmount to Park Heights, Brooklyn to the Junction, Sandtown to the Village. I was schooled by the illest, realest drug dealers. Reformed to refine with a renewed mind. Yeah, it took me a minute, but ultimately I shine. I didn't flip the pack, started biz from scratch, got on a bus and I put the temple on my back. Let's go. What up, Lil Mike? What up, so family, you know. What up, Chill? Many of us are not supposed to be here today. You know what I'm talking about? What up, Rolo? You know what I mean? A lot of us didn't make it, man, from in town. What up, Five Waters 20? Hey. What up, Robert Johnson? Rest in peace, you know, all the hoods. What up, Many of us wasn't supposed to make it today. But every time, what up, DJ Go? Listen, family, I appreciate y'all, and I see y'all tomorrow night. We back. Woo!